Hey, welcome back to True-Moto-Resto, and on today's video we're going to continue playing around a little bit with the junkyard GSX-R 750. That one. Stay tuned. So yes, this is a junkyard, salvage yard, whatever you want to call it, GSX-R 750. That's where I bought it from. It was a cycle salvage place. So, glutton for punishment, absolutely. Has this bike sat outside in the weather for an unknown period of time? Most definitely. But it's gonna have to run without making some nasty noises. And then if it does that, to be honest, I think the rest of it will be, I'm not going to say easy or cheap, but it's fairly straightforward. There's nothing, most of the bike is there. There's, does it need a lot of stuff? Yes, it needs pretty much everything doing. But again, it's not difficult stuff to do. Front to back, as you go through it, it's all stuff that if you've done a bike before, you do it anyway. It doesn't matter whether it's in mediocre condition, just a few blemishes here and there, or it's really roached body wise. I mean, you end up doing most of the same work anyway. So yes, all the body work has to be sanded down and prepared for paint. There's going to be some dent removal, there'll be some plastic repairs, but that's par for the course. It'll need new tires, which they all end up getting new tires anyway. It'll need brakes, which they all get anyway. Wheel bearings, head bearings, which they all get anyway. That kind of thing. So it'll need a seat cover, which the last 3 bikes I've done have all gotten seat covers anyway. This one is particularly bad, but the foam underneath it is okay. I've started to disassemble the ignition switch, and so far it's kind of not what I was expecting to find, but that's par for the course. So first thing I did was just take off the plastic cover, and then this collar kind of held this. I don't know if this is the barrel or what it is, but that was basically held into here. And then once that came off, I was able to extract this guy, the spring in the bottom. Now what I was expecting to find in here was some sort of a retaining, like a C-clip that I would be buried in here somewhere, that I could then extract this and expose the wafers. So that's going to be held in there somehow. I just haven't yet figured out how to get this part out of this casting. All right, so without the keys, I guess the good news is I managed to pull on the cable down here and get the seat popped off. So that's one thing. And then it turned out the gas cap wasn't actually locked, so it comes off, and you can see some rust in there, but it's not the worst I've ever seen. There is some fuel still in there. Not great, but not the worst. So okay, success. Turns out there's I don't know what they call this. I'm just going to call it a locking wafer, which goes right at the very end here. And that guy seems to just kind of hold that cylinder in the barrel. And I guess you can, if you can fish something down in there, and you can kind of depress it with something like that and push it in and slide out the whole assembly. I did try actually and drill, which was ineffective, but I was kind of looking for pins. It's not going to affect the operation of this in any way. I'll just make sure that it's all nicely cleaned out before I reassemble it. But anyway, so the good news is I got the barrel and the cylinder separated, and now I've got the wafers. This was a pretty gummed up I pulled most of those wafers out and cleaned everything and lubed it all up. That one kind of stops that locking. This whole affair is pretty nasty. I mean, it's been packed with silicone on the back, so I don't know. I'll give it a go. It might work, get me through a bind, and if once I get this thing running and I go through the restoration process, it's nothing to stop me from replacing. All right, so I just went through the process of making a key. So right now this is only a one-sided key. I can take this in now and get it. Get this other one. I got two blanks in case I mucked it up, but I could take this one in now and get it cut two-sided, and then got the other side cut from this, so it's a full convenience key. When you insert the key, these wafers that are sticking up on the top now, if you stick the blank key in, I'll kind of show you here. So when you insert the key, the wafers that were kind of sticking out of the top, and now you get a bunch of them sticking out of the bottom. So the idea is that you do them one at a time. You basically file the key until the wafers are flush on the top and flush on the bottom. So they're spring loaded, so you always want to be at the top. So you basically file away the bottom of the key, and what you can do is, like when you put the blank in there and they're sticking out of the bottom, you can take a little hammer or a punch, hit the wafer, and it'll mark the key and show you where you need to file it. And you just do a little bit at a time until it fits. So if I pull this back out, as I pull it out, you see the wafers all kind of come back up. So here we go. So now the key turns in the lock. The lock is very worn, so it's not perfect. Like, it does stick a little bit here and there, but for the purposes of what I needed, this now works. Now, the reason I wanted to do this was not because I wanted this ignition to work, which is kind of a nice side benefit for the short term, because I'm going to put a new ignition lock in it anyway, is I really wanted the key to see if it would operate the helmet seat latch and also the gas cap. So far, I have not even been able to get the key into the helmet lock, and I can't get the gas cap to move yet either. So they could just be, you know, corroded and stuck, but I'll keep working at that. But the point is, I got this to work, so now I can reassemble it. So what I've started to do on the GSX-R, just because I don't know when I'm actually going to get to play around with this. I certainly won't be restoring it for another few months until we hit winter, and I've got a couple of other projects ahead of it. So, but in the meantime, even before I attempt to start this thing, prior to the restoration, I just want to make sure that I can actually get things apart. So I've started soaking everything in penetrating oil. WD-40, PB Blaster, PB50, Seafoam Deep Creep, anything and everything. Every day I hit all the fasteners, especially the carburetors, which were quite kind of crusty, furry, corroded, whatever you want to call it. This thing is set outside for who knows how long, so I expect the carbs to be a little difficult to get some of those fasteners out. The good news is they're actually operating quite smoothly. Everything is, there's nothing seized in the bores of the slides or anything like that. So, but again, even if worst came to worst and this thing bangs and smokes like something terrible, I can still, you know, keep it for parts or part it out and get my money back easily. I did not pay very much for it, so I'm not going to lose any sleep on that, that's for sure. All right, so I figured it was time to, this is not the start of the restoration of the junkyard Slabbie, but this is first steps to see if I can actually get it to do anything. So bodywork is all off. Plugs are all out. Looks like a couple of plugs are kind of newer than the two center ones. So I did get it to turn over. I jumped my jumper cables and the battery, and I jumped the starter, and I got it to crank over. So she cranks over. She cranks over when I jump that starter. Second thing I did was I put a booster pack on the battery terminals with the key on. Got nothing, zero. So started looking around a little bit, and this fuse was cooked. So that goes down in here, which I guess says power or something on it. The other ones are okay, although I will say that the headlight fuse connectors inside this box, or this one is kind of crooked on this side, so that needs to be sorted out. But anyway, so I've changed that out. And I'm going to try hooking a battery up to here to see if I get any power to the dash. And Genius Designs, Suzuki seems to be, I recall from my other Suzuki bikes, air boxes are a pain in the ass on Suzuki. So this, you know, it's unhooked here. You can't get this air box out unless it's coming out this way somehow. So the carbs have to come off to get the air box out. At a minimum, I don't even know if there's going to be enough room to do that. That's just madness. But anyway, we'll cross that bridge shortly when I get the carburetors out. They've got to come out anyway to be cleaned. Maybe I'll just leave the air box kind of dangling in there for now. And then the next steps is going to be to see if I can get power so it'll crank over without jumping the starter, just off the starter button up here. And then if it cranks over by itself, it's basically compression check. Am I getting spark? And if those two kind of check out, then we can think about getting the carbs cleaned and see if it'll actually do anything. So first things first, do I have compression? Do I have spark? And before all that, I got to get power to the switches. Okay, so I got a temporary battery hooked up here. That battery will crank over a 4-cylinder without any issue. But I don't know if you can see down in here. So maybe I'll point with my pen. So this is the starter relay in here, and the positive battery terminal should be connected to that. But I actually don't get, if I put my voltmeter right against that nut, or even the top of the stud, I don't get a reading, and I get an open line on the ohm meter as well. So I get no volts. I get an open line on the voltmeter, whereas if I kind of come back up here, of course I get my 13 volts, and I think it just shows 0, but it doesn't show open line. So obviously there's some, I don't know if that's a corrosion issue on that, or if that's a starter relay problem. But so here we are. So that's just against the battery terminal there. So I get my 13 volts there. And if I go in here against the post, this is what I'm getting. 0.8, 0.9, just kind of jump it around there. Well, electrical stuff is my worst discipline in this stuff. So I kind of learn something new every time I have to get into it, and I'm forced into it like now. So first thing to do, I guess, is to disconnect that. I'm going to disconnect this guy here. This is the starter relay, and this is a positive terminal in the starter relay. So I'll see if I can get that off, clean the connections, and then we'll check everything again. All right, so I decided to pull off the starter relay just to test it, because I think I'm getting voltage to it now. But I say think, it was like, I don't know, 7 volts or something like that. I finally got power to the dash and all the lights. There was another fuse I found that was gone. So so my next step is I just want to make sure the starter solenoid itself is working. So here's what I've got set up from the multimeter. I've just got it on the sound for the continuity, and I've got that set up across the 2 main terminals. So that's going to the multimeter right here, and then these smaller alligator clips here, these ones are going to the battery. So I've got, I don't think these are polarity sensitive anyway, but basically if I connect the negative terminal here to the battery, I should hear a click, and then this will beep if I'm getting current. So here we go. So I've got a good starter solenoid, so my problems are elsewhere. All right, well, I now get power to the switch. If you can see the lights turn on in there. See, the lights go on, the gauges. So I'm getting power to the gauges, but I'm not getting anything here at all. No, nothing at the starter switch here. And the reason I'm now getting power here is because I actually went ahead and connected the damn ignition key plug, which I disconnected when I had to cut the key. So idiot that I am, I forgot to connect that. So I'm getting power here. I'm not getting any power or any activity out of the starter switch. All right, I might have some luck here. Oh, we have her cranking. Let's see if I get any spark here. I do have spark. So it appears the 2 newer plugs are sparking. The ones that look like are clearly old and nasty are not. Okay, let's see if we can get compression reading. This is cylinder 1, throttle open. That's not off to a good start at all. Cylinder 2. There's bugger all for compression in that cylinder either. Number 3. Well, that's not good. I'm not getting anything in any of them. That doesn't make any sense, does it? Well, that's odd. I could understand one cylinder being completely cooked, but all 4. Well. Okay, so just a quick recap on where I am and what I've done so far. So first thing I did was cut a key to get the ignition to work. Then it was just a bunch of, I'll call it at this point, minor electrical issues, bad contacts from corrosion, certainly down on the starter relay, 2 blown fuses, and the switch gear. This thing with this particular switch, the on-off switch, was completely seized. So I freed that up, electrical contact cleaner in all of these switches, and yeah, finally I got it to crank over. And with the cranking, I was seeing spark on the plugs that were the newer plugs, but not on the what looked to be fairly old and fouled plugs. So what I've actually done now is I've actually switched these 2 around, the fouled one over here and the good one there. I just want to make sure that one coil has got enough juice to power 2 plugs. anyway, so the plugs are getting some spark. It's turning over, but there's no compression. And so my suspicion is that the rings are seized in the piston grooves from sitting as long as it has. So next steps, I think, is to chuck a bunch of either penetrating oil or maybe a cocktail of transmission fluid and acetone or diesel or something. I'll figure that out and then let it sit. And once in a while, I'll crank it over and see if I can work those loose. And if I can, and I get some compression, great. If not, well, I guess one of two things will happen. I'll either be pulling this engine apart and doing rings and other things, or I will be looking for another engine to go into this this bike. And if I look for another engine, then I have to find a Suzuki oil boiler that'll fit in here. Maybe I don't know, would a Bandit 1200 engine fit in here? I don't know. I'm not sure how many of those are lurking around, but anyway, we'll see. We'll take it one step at a time. No, that's not a large jug of chocolate milk. That is the contents of the junkyard Slabbie gas tank. So, and I think the majority of this is, unfortunately, water. I think that's the culmination of a gas tank sitting out in the open, in the weather for a long time, and just slowly leaking water from the gas cap into the tank, and then it just kind of sat there. After finding all of the chocolate milk in the fuel tank, I figured I better drain the oil. I need to do this anyway. I have no idea what's in here. Lovely. Well, doesn't appear to be any water in it. That's the good news. Okay, 20 liters of vinegar, cleaning vinegar that's going in that gas tank. Got to start somewhere, so we'll start here. All right there, so we're basically filled to the top with cleaning vinegar, so that can sit in there for as long as it takes. Get this thing cleaned out. A few days anyway. Okay guys, that's going to be it for this video, and we'll keep at it. I'm going to keep picking away at things over time. I'm not going to really do much of anything now on this until the fall, given that I know the condition of it. I might try the compression test one more time. I'm going to keep treating those cylinders with some penetrating oil. I'll see if maybe I can find some Marvel mystery oil or something like that. But likely that engine's going to have to come apart before I can do anything. And if I do anything interesting or material on it in the next little while, I'll be sure to post a video. And in the meantime, the CB900F is still waiting for its new regulator rectifier, so we're going to get to that soon. So thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Please like, share, and subscribe. Just kind of reach down there and click that subscribe button, please, and thank you. See you soon.